Hi guys, and welcome back to the Red Mist podcast with me Seshadri, and welcome to the match preview for Champions League match day 3 between Atalanta Bergamo and Liverpool Football Club. Group D fixture again. Very entertaining fixture it's going to be. If I was a neutral and not supporting Liverpool, I would love to watch this showdown between two attacking teams. Just kind of throw caution to the wind in some sense, and they're just going to go for it, I'm sure. But speaking of Group D, before I get into the whole Atalanta versus Liverpool preview, I just want to mention Ajax Amsterdam because 11 of their players are now COVID positive, which means they're not going to be going to play Midtjylland. A lot of them are first-team players, including both their first and second-choice goalkeepers. So, they're going there with their reserve goalkeeper. It's going to make things a lot harder for them. But not just that, I just want to wish them a speedy recovery from the disease, and hopefully, as humanity, we can find a cure for COVID-19 at some point in the near future. But good luck to Ajax, good luck to Midtjylland in the other game. May the best team win, and but moving on, coming back to Liverpool versus Atalanta. Atalanta last season and even the season before that, they've been playing really, really well. Last season, they scored 95 goals in the Serie A, so very attacking team. And if you didn't know the magnitude of that number, 95 goals is a record that was 95 goals breaks a record that stood for 60 years before that for goals scored by an Italian team in the Serie A. So unbelievable there. Of course, you've also got the Champions League quarterfinal. That's the stage that they reached last year, and they almost went through to the semi-finals because if it wasn't for a last-minute PSG winner, and if it wasn't for some heroics by PSG within the last 10 minutes, it would have been Atalanta in the semi-finals and not PSG. And that would have been a fairy tale story for a team, for a city that probably deserves one. And Atalanta, they've really sort of rebranded themselves. They at one stage in their recent history, even as early as I think if you go back to about the mid 2010s, they were battling relegation, and they didn't seem to be in a very good spot. And if you're told fans of Atalanta at that point that 5-6 years from now that you'd be playing Liverpool in a Champions League game and you'd have reached the Champions League quarterfinals the season before, I think they would have laughed at you. But that just shows the work that their coach Gianpiero Gasperini has done. It's taken them from being relegation candidates to playing Champions League football year in, year out. And they're still young. They're still trying to get established amongst the Italian elite, amongst the Champions League, also runs, I guess. But it's a massive step forward in these last few years for this club. But speaking of Gianpiero Gasperini, he's got his style. He's got Atalanta playing true to his style, very attacking football. It has its weaknesses. His system has its weaknesses. But he's had the players work in a way that benefits the team. He's had his players work in a way where the product that you get on the field is greater than the sum of its parts. And I think that's just essentially what any football team is, any good football team is. Whether even Liverpool, for that matter, is exactly the same thing. And I think Atalanta they've revolutionized Italian football in a way that we haven't seen in quite a while, I would say. For a team with such modest resources, when you compare them to the Juventuses, to the Inter Milans, for a team to be doing this well is quite impressive. Atalanta, obviously, Gasperini, very attacking football, like I said, loves to make use of the number 10 role, which for them obviously is Alejandro Gomez, the Argentine playmaker. A little late in his career, all this success has been coming to him, but he's been really, really good. Has a free role behind the striker or strikers, depending on what Atalanta plays. So sometimes, he plays with another attacking midfielder, Josip Ilicic, who, along with Gomez, was probably the best player last season for the Italian side. And sometimes he just plays as the lone number 10 behind two strikers. So, it just depends on what Gasperini decides to go with. But Gomez has been absolutely crucial to this Atalanta side, and silencing him will be key. The problem with that is, to silence him, you need a good number 6. And right now, the most natural player in our number 6 position is Fabinho, who unfortunately is injured. And it's going to be difficult. Now, Jordan Henderson can do a job, but a lot will depend on how much he can control the influence of Alejandro Gomez. But yeah, Atalanta, just to give a background on them, Atalanta do tend to go with 3 at the back. So they tend to play two different systems. So far this season, they've played either a 3-4-2-1 which, for example, they played against Ajax in their last Champions League game, which was a 2-all draw at home, or they tend to play a 3-4-1-2, which they've tended to play a few times in the Serie A as well. But Marco Sportiello is their goalkeeper, is their first choice goalkeeper, and they've also had a host of new arrivals through the summer, which some of whom I'll go through when I probably predict their expected lineups. So Marco Sportiello will be playing at the back. He's their goalkeeper. At the back line features one new face, which is Christian Romero, the Argentine defender. Alongside him, he plays in the middle of a back three. Alongside him, there is the Albanian Berat Jimsiti and the Brazilian Rafael Toloi. So this is usually their first choice back three, the strongest back three even when they play against teams in the Champions League, bigger teams in the Serie A, things like that. But two big misses for them, however, will be Robin Gosens and Hans Hatteboer. Now, Hatteboer is back. He has been named in the Atalanta squad. Now, I don't know if he can complete the full 90 minutes, though, because he did suffer an injury and this is going to be his first game back. So I don't know if Hans Hatteboer will be back. But what I will say is that if he is back, he is going to play the full 90 minutes. Unfortunately, I don't think he will play the full 90 minutes. I think more likely he is going to be on the bench, and they're going to have to go with two new wing backs. And by new, I mean literally, they've barely played this season. I think one of them's played about a game and the other one's going to make his debut. And, they're both new signings to the club. So there's going to be a lot of reshuffling of the back line, which is something that Liverpool can take advantage of. Which is something that, especially, considering their reshuffling is going to be on in the wing back positions, they can actually take advantage of it with Mo Salah, Andy Robertson, Sadio Mane and Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, by the way, is regaining form as well. So, we can take advantage, try and overload the flanks. Difficult to do against a 3-man/5-man backline, but we can try. So at left back, we're probably going to see Johan Mojica, who's a Colombian left back. Again, new signing, like I said. And at right back, we're probably going to see a debut for Fabio De Paoli, Italian right back. It's just going to be, that's just how it's going to be. They're just going to have to make do. Hans Hatteboer, if he is fit to play the full 90 minutes, will play at right back. De Paoli might have to wait a little longer for his debut. But I personally think it's going to be these three in midfield. I personally think it's going to be these two at wing back, in the wing back positions. Now, the central midfield is very, very key to the way Atalanta play, which means that, whoever plays in the central midfield, a lot of the time they're outnumbered in terms of, they're going up against formations that have three in central midfield. But I'm not counting Gomez as a central midfielder as such. So a lot of the time they're outnumbered or at least equally matched, if not anything else. So these guys work hard. They need to be they need to attack as well as defend. So there's a lot of box-to-box stuff that's going on with this team. One key miss for Atalanta is going to be Martin de Roon. The Dutch midfielder is not going to be playing this game, which means that we're probably going to see Mario Pasalic, who will play who will play in central midfield, and he will probably be partnered by Remo Freuler, who's a Swiss midfielder as well, so a teammate of Xherdan Shaqiri in the international setup. But we might actually see these two play together. Now, do I think they can do a job? I think they're well matched with our potential midfield of Jordan Henderson and Gini Wijnaldum. I think they're well matched. The only thing is, I don't think the midfield battle in this game is going to be as key. I think it's the flanks that is going to be key. So, which is why, when I was talking about the wing backs, I said that's going to be an aspect that we should be able to take advantage of, hopefully. That being said, Atalanta does have numbers to cover any attack down the flank. So, it's going to be interesting to see how much influence the midfield has on the game as well. Because I don't expect it to be much. But that being said, Atalanta is a side that press very high, that love to win the ball back up very high, but also their system places a lot of demands on their central midfielders for stamina, for endurance, and they've not gone up so far in the Serie A against a team that presses as much as Liverpool does. And key to Liverpool's pressing is Jordan Henderson. Key to Liverpool's pressing is Gini Wijnaldum. That whole midfield in general, they're very key to Liverpool's pressing game and trying to win the ball back up high and things like that. So Will Mario Pasalic and Remo Freuler get overwhelmed is going to be the key question that Atalanta need to look at and that Atalanta need to answer going into this game. Like I said, they've had a lot of new faces as well. Obviously, Freuler has been there for a while, and so he knows the system as well as anybody does in that team. So I'm not too, it's going to be key. It's going to be interesting to see. The midfield battle is going to be interesting. It could turn out to be a dull dud, and it could just turn out to be that both sides just cancel each other out, and the wing backs or the wing play decides the game, which I think will be the case, by the way. But it is also equally likely that with the three in midfield that we have, there is a chance we can overrun the Atalanta midfield. If we have the ball, if we have the possession. Now, in terms of attacking midfield, Atalanta, like I said at the start, they can go two ways. They can either play two attacking midfielders and one striker, which they did against Ajax, for example, or they can go with two strikers and one attacking midfielder, which they did in some of their Serie A games. I personally think they will play two attacking midfielders because that allows both Ilicic and Gomez to play in the same lineup. Gomez can also play as a second striker in that lineup. So for me, I think Ilicic and Gomez will both start together, and Zapata will be leading the line up front too, and Zapata. I think that's just the best way that they're going to be going about it. They're going to try and, one thing they could potentially do if they play that lineup, and I mentioned, the midfield battle, one thing that this gives them, that Ilicic and Gomez give them, is the ability to keep our number 6, whoever that is, whether that's Jordan Henderson, as it's likely to be, or Gini Wijnaldum in an exceptional case. It does give them the ability to keep that person occupied, which would equalize the midfield battle as a 2-on-2. I know it's not as straightforward as that, but it's a somewhat rudimentary way of looking at this and trying to see who can win that midfield battle. I think Ilicic, Gomez, very creative players, both of them probably the best players for Atalanta last season, and it's going to be a very interesting game for them as well, and how we control the two of them, especially if both of them start. If Ilicic is on the bench, then fair enough, but if both of them start, then there's going to be we need to control them because they are very good on the ball and they can score goals as well. Duvan Zapata is a poacher, scored 2 goals against Ajax Amsterdam, has looked quite impressive throughout his Atalanta career, but I personally think this is the lineup that Atalanta is going to start with. Big misses for them, I'd say Hans Hateboer and Robin Gosens, which is again another reason why I say the wing play is going to be important for us, because that's a place that we can take advantage of. Christian Romero is still settling into the team. He's played a few games for them, so he should be a little more settled than maybe he was at the start of the season. But we'll see how the game plays out. The 3 at the back, the 5 at the back, however you want to look at it, it's a way to counter Liverpool. And we have tended to struggle more often against these teams than we do against teams which play 4 at the back. As for Liverpool team news, good news for us is that 4 different players are back into training, and that includes Joel Matip, who's completed a full session, Naby Keita, who's completed a full session, Kostas Tsimikas as well has completed training before the Champions League game against Atalanta. Billy Koumetio is also back in training, but unfortunately he's not in Billy Koumetio has also completed his training, so that's also there. Unfortunately, he's not part of the Champions League squad, so he won't actually play, but he did complete his training, so that's good. The coming weeks should see Fabinho and Thiago as well come back, so which leaves Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain and Virgil van Dijk as the only long-term injury concerns for us. Thiago, I wish he was fit for this game, but to be honest, I actually wish he's more fit for the Man City game this weekend. He's recovering, of course, from the red card challenge that Richarlison had on him in the Everton game, which he's on an individual recovery program, and I don't know how long that's going to take, but we'll see if he's back for the City game at some point this week. But Nat Phillips had an impressive game. So for those of you who are wondering why Nat Phillips, who played really well against West Ham, is not playing against Atalanta. It's because he wasn't registered with the side, with the Champions League team, because a lot of people, including Jurgen Klopp, expected that he would go to Swansea on loan before the end of the summer. Fortunately, or unfortunately, that never panned out. Nat Phillips now has his chance in a Liverpool jersey. He's played a league game for Liverpool as well. So, fair play to him. Unfortunate that he wasn't registered in the Champions League team, but really not anyone's fault. The likely thing is that Joel Matip and Joe Gomez will start at the back, Alisson in goal. On the right-hand side, we'll of course have Trent. On the left-hand side, will Tsimikas start is a question. I don't think he will. I think it's going to be Andy Robertson for the next 2 games. I think the first time we'll really get a look at Tsimikas is after the international break. We can use the international break with Greece to help him build up some match fitness, and then first time we might actually have a look at him is after the international break. So for me personally, I think that's going to be our backline. So that's Trent, Gomez, Matip, and Andy Robertson. In midfield, I feel like we will have Jordan Henderson, Gini Wijnaldum, and I want to say Xherdan Shaqiri. I really do. Because he's come on, he's had an impressive spell, played really well, assisted Diogo Jota's goal as well. I want to say Xherdan Shaqiri, but the problem is I don't know if Klopp thinks he's ready. He's not started a lot of games, in recent times. Obviously, he's had some injury concerns. I don't know. Curtis Jones could start as well. Wasn't that great against West Ham, so I don't know if he will start. And then, Xherdan Shaqiri could do that. But if we're playing a 4-2-3-1, then we might as well. We could very well see Diogo Jota in the starting lineup. And a lot of fans, including me, have been campaigning for him to be in the starting lineup. Now, I personally think Firmino should be dropped and Jota should be brought in. And we should stick to a 4-3-3. But I won't be surprised if Klopp goes with a 4-2-3-1, plays Henderson and Wijnaldum as a double pivot in midfield, and then has Firmino in the attacking midfield role with Salah, Jota and Mane as the front 3 really. So we could have that. We could potentially have Xherdan Shaqiri in that number 10 role. It's just there's a lot of possibilities. Depends on who starts. I want Shaqiri to start and I want Jota to start. Do I think they will? I think Shaqiri might have a shot. I really doubt Jota will. As much as I want him to, I don't know if Jota will be given a start. I really want Jota to start because, let's face it, he is on form. He's fit in seamlessly with the front 3. And I keep saying this, I keep repeating this almost every podcast episode now. But this man he looked like a Liverpool player. He looked like he's been at Liverpool for years the moment he stepped on the pitch with us. So for me, starting Diogo Jota is a no-brainer. But, we'll see what Jurgen Klopp has in mind as well. Maybe playing a 4-2-3-1 might help in terms of, countering a back 5. Maybe it'll also help in terms of, the directness that Mane, Salah and Jota bring as a front 3. The directness that they bring, it could be put to good use against, what is essentially essentially 2 new wing backs and a defensive lineup that is still finding its feet, really. Atalanta, in the Serie A, they've had some pretty bad defeats. Gianpiero Gasperini admitted it himself. He's been experimenting a lot, and the prime example for that was their 3-1 loss to Sampdoria. So, they've lost to Sampdoria, they've lost to Napoli 4-1. So it is possible to score against them because they're not really a settled unit. So I feel like playing 4 attackers with Firmino and Jota in the same lineup might help us, but I don't know if Klopp's going to go with a 4-2-3-1 or he's going to trust what he usually goes with, which is a 4-3-3. But yeah, that kind of brings me to the end of the preview episode. Predictions for tomorrow's game. I personally think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be close. We need to wrap up this group as soon as possible, given our fixture congestion, so that we can play our backups in the rest of the games. I want to finish this off by the time we finish our 2 matches with Atalanta, which come one after the other. In terms of the Champions League. So I want to finish this off. I want to wrap up first place in the group. And, it's going to be a good game. Might start out to be cagey because these 2 games are very important for Atalanta. Atalanta getting a draw at home against Ajax did not help them. So they need this win, or they need a good result more than anyone else. And a win would be invaluable for them. Would derail us a little bit. But given Liverpool's frailties in defense, given Atalanta's frailties in defense, and given our strengths, both sides' strengths in attack, I am expecting a good game. But at the same time, I do feel like it's going to be cagey to start out with. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. I think eventually both sides will score, but I think both sides will be cautious enough to not concede. Or at least not concede too many, and early on, and probably even the entirety of the first half, it might just be a feeling out process. And one big advantage in our favor is the lack of crowds. Atalanta has a very vocal crowd in the Serie A, so Champions League, the atmosphere is going to be even more. So I just think it's going to be an entertaining game, but the first half might be cagey. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw. Although I do want Liverpool to win, I do think it's going to be a tough game in Bergamo. So that's my preview. That's my prediction for tomorrow's game, or today's game as you're listening to this. The match is going to air at 8 p.m. British time, 1:30 a.m. On Wednesday morning, technically in India, which means it's going to be a late night for me. But that's these are the nights we live for. We live for the Champions League. So I will see you guys tomorrow for the Raw Reactions episode. But until then, take care of yourself. Goodbye and have a nice day.